Welcome back. Tonight, we're drifting slowly into the complete lore of Chica, the yellow animatronic whose cheerful let's eat bib concealed decades of tragedy, whose kitchen clatters echoed through security office speakers like whispers from beyond, whose magenta eyes tracked night guards with an intelligence that transcended simple programming. A creation born from Fazbear Entertainment's vision of family dining perfection, where pizza steam mingled with carnival music under stage lights that never quite reached the shadows gathering in distant hallways. Assembled in workshops where engineers bolted servos and wired voice boxes without knowing they were building vessels for something far darker than birthday songs and cupcake deliveries. Her story weaves through every location, every iteration, every midnight hour. When animatronics step from their stages, and the line between programming and possession blurs into something neither science nor skepticism can fully explain. From her debut at the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, to her mold-encrusted remains lurching through flooded basements decades later, Chica's evolution traces the franchise's heart. A tale of innocence corrupted, of hunger that never satisfies, of a little girl named Susie whose spirit found no rest in yellow plating and endoskeleton frames. Before we begin, feel free to like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy this kind of slow, immersive storytelling that drifts through the edges of memory and myth. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always haunting and beautiful to see the same story weaving through different corners of the world, one quiet night at a time. Let's begin. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opens its doors in the early 1980 seconds, with show stage lights illuminating three figures beneath a banner promising birthday magic and endless entertainment. Camera 1A captures this tableau nightly. The security feed showing Freddy Fazbear at center stage, Bonnie the bunny to stage left, and at stage right, Chica the chicken, yellow plating gleaming under spotlights, orange beak parted slightly as if mid-song, white bib decorated with colorful confetti and bold block letters proclaiming, "Let's eat," draped across her chest. Engineers designed her as the band's sole feminine voice, backup harmonies meant to complement Freddy's lead vocals, while providing visual diversity to a lineup otherwise dominated by masculine frames. Her left hand extends forward, servo motors allowing her to present a white plate bearing Mr. Cupcake, the buck-toothed dessert prop with pink frosting swirls and a yellow striped candle standing rigid beside protruding teeth, yellow eyes fixed forward in perpetual cheerful observation. Three tufts of feathered plumage crown her head, carefully positioned to mimic avian realism, while maintaining the softness required for a family entertainment venue. Orange feet, shaped like bird talons, grip the stage planks firmly, claws curling against wood grain polished smooth by countless performances. Her magenta eyes dominate the facial assembly, large pupils designed to dilate and engage child audiences during daytime shows, drawing their attention toward pizza counters and prize corners, where parents queue with tokens and crumpled dollar bills. The design philosophy behind Chica pulls directly from 1970 seconds and 1980 seconds entertainment mascot trends. McDonald's had introduced Birdie the early bird in 1980, a yellow avian character promoting breakfast menu items with wide eyes and feathered costume details that made morning Happy Meals feel like events rather than transactions. Chuck E. Cheese establishments featured Helen Henny, a chicken performer in the animatronic band who belted songs alongside the famous mouse, her stage presence commanding dining rooms packed with arcade cabinets and ball pits. Scott Cawthon, creating Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as a horror reimagining of these nostalgic spaces, channeled these influences into Chica's construction. Her yellow coloring echoes Birdie's breakfast optimism. Her stage position and feminine energy mirror Helen Henny's role as the female voice in a predominantly male ensemble. But where those inspirations remained cheerful throughout their existence, Chica's programming contained fatal flaws that transformed birthday performer into nocturnal predator, her familiar design becoming uncanny when those magenta eyes tracked movement through security cameras at 2 a.m., when staff had gone home and only a lone night guard remained to monitor feeds showing her absence from the stage. The Let's Eat bib serves as Chica's defining accessory, white fabric chosen specifically to withstand the spills and stains inevitable in a pizza-themed restaurant. Confetti patterns scatter across its surface in reds, blues, yellows, greens. Tiny celebrations frozen in textile form. The slogan itself emphasizes her role as the face of Fazbear Entertainment's food service, the animatronic who beckons families toward steaming pizza trays emerging from kitchen windows, whose backup vocals provide soundtrack to cheese pulls and soda fizz, and the crunch of arcade tickets dispensing from skee-ball machines. Engineers bolted this bib to her frame with the same care they applied to every component, ensuring fabric hung loosely enough to sway with band movements, creating the illusion of breath and life when servos activated during performances. Parents barely noticed these details during birthday parties, their attention divided between screaming children and melting ice cream, and the perpetual negotiation over just one more game before we leave. But night guards, alone in security offices with only camera feeds for company, learned to recognize that bib swaying on the East Hall feeds, fabric catching faint air currents as Chica's bulk approached the right door, as proximity sensors triggered low groans through office speakers, and fluorescent lights flickered against the strain of failing power reserves. Mr. Cupcake remains one of the franchise's most enduring mysteries. A prop that transcends simple stage decoration to become something more observant, more present than any dessert should rightfully be. The pink frosting swirls atop a base devoid of wrapper or serving plate, as if the cupcake exists in platonic ideal form, pure pastry unencumbered by real-world presentation needs. Buck teeth protrude beside the yellow and white striped candle, giving the prop an expression somewhere between cheerful and vaguely unsettling, especially when those yellow eyes seem to track security camera angles during late-night monitoring sessions. Fans initially called this figure Carl during early game discussions, a nickname born from pre-release speculation about whether every prop in Freddy Fazbear's Pizza possessed some hidden sentience. Official materials later formalized the name as Mr. Cupcake in character encyclopedias and merchandise lines, cementing its place in franchise iconography. The prop's role in FNAF 1 extends beyond simple stage decoration, because something inexplicable happens when Chica leaves her position on camera 1A. Guards checking feeds discover Mr. Cupcake has relocated to the top right corner of the monitor stack on the security office desk. Plate materialized precisely as if placed there by unseen hands, yellow eyes now angled downward toward the guard's position, observation, unblinking throughout the remaining hours until 6 a.m., when morning staff arrive and animatronics return to stage positions. No explanation exists in orientation tapes or employee manuals for this transfer. Engineers design no mechanism for independent movement, yet guards learn quickly to expect that presence. That additional pressure of being watched, not just through security cameras, but from something perched at arm's reach, something that shouldn't move but clearly does. Phone Guy's training tapes crackle through office speakers on night one, the distant voice explaining protocols, with the casual tone of someone who has delivered these warnings many times before, who has perhaps grown numb to their implications. He mentions that the animatronics have a feature where they roam around at night, some kind of free roaming mode designed to keep their servos from locking up. Though this explanation feels insufficient when cameras show Chica stepping from the stage at 12:03 a.m., when her form fills the East Hall on camera 4A, at 1:17 a.m., when groans filter through the right door, speaker at 2:45 a.m., and the door light reveals her standing there, beak parted, eyes dilated, Mr. Cupcake's plate abandoned on the office monitor stack. Phone Guy describes the animatronics programming as malfunctioning, some error in their criminal database recognition systems, that makes them perceive adult humans in security guard uniforms as endoskeletons without suits. Costumeless frames that must be corrected, must be forcibly suited in spare Freddy Fazbear heads kept in back rooms, a process that would crush and mutilate any living person subjected to the spring-lock mechanisms and endoskeleton components filling those suits. But this explanation also feels incomplete. A corporate rationalization that doesn't account for the intelligence behind those magenta eyes, the purposeful stalking patterns, the way Chica's movements coordinate with Bonnie's left hall advances, and Foxy's Pirate Cove charges to overwhelm guard defenses through systematic pressure on power reserves. The missing children incident provides the true explanation, though its details remain fragmented across minigames and newspaper clippings that decorate the security office walls in barely readable print. June of 1985. At the original Freddy Fazbear's pizza location, 5 children lured by a man in a spring Bonnie suit led away from arcade cabinets and prize counters into back rooms marked employees only, where birthday balloons couldn't mask the screams that may or may not have reached dining areas over the noise of animatronic band performances and children's laughter. William Afton, the man behind the mascot, stuffing small bodies into animatronic suits after the killing finished, hiding evidence inside the very attractions that drew these children to the restaurant in the first place. Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and a 5th suit whose identity shifts depending on timeline interpretation, Golden Freddy, or perhaps something else, something more hidden. These children's souls bound to the animatronics through mechanisms the games call remnant and agony, supernatural forces that transcend scientific explanation, that transform murder victims into vengeful spirits whose consciousness warps the programming of the machines now serving as their eternal prisons. Susie was her name, the little girl whose spirit possesses Chica throughout the franchise timeline. The FNAF 6 minigame Fruity Maze reveals this in pixelated segments that play between salvage sessions, a girl in yellow navigating fruit-collecting mazes while a green sprite follows her movements, while the background glitches and distorts, until finally, on maze completion, purple pixels representing William Afton corner her sprite near the bottom of the screen, text appearing that reads, "He's not dead. He's over here. Follow me." The screen flashes to show her face, tear-streaked, pixelated but unmistakably terrified, alongside her name, Susie. The game cuts to black before showing what happens next, but other materials fill in implications. She was lured with promises of seeing her dog, a pet that had recently died, a grief that Afton exploited with the cruelty of someone who understands exactly which emotional vulnerabilities to target in a child. The Fazbear Fright's story, Coming Home, expands her narrative, showing Susie's spirit caught between 2 states, peaceful translucent form, wandering her family home, trying to retrieve a lost doll while simultaneously bound to Chica at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, her consciousness split between the life she lost and the vengeance she can't quite complete. Each midnight, Chica arrives at her house to grasp her hand, leading her away until morning when cycles reset and grief compounds. The story resolves when Susie's younger sister Samantha finds the doll in their father's office, enabling a final embrace under a fallen oak tree where Susie's form solidifies briefly before fading. Released at last from both locations, but in game continuity, no such release occurs. Susie remains bound to yellow plating and endoskeleton frames, her witness to William Afton's crimes driving the aggression that sends Chica stalking through right hallways, kitchen doors, and ventilation shafts across decades of franchise locations. FNAF 2's grand reopening positions itself as a prequel despite releasing as the second game, its newspaper clippings referencing the original restaurant's closing due to sanitation concerns and criminal investigations that never quite produced charges. The new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza attempts rebranding through shinier animatronics, sleek plastic molds called toy variants, designed with facial recognition tied to criminal databases, management believing technology can prevent further incidents. But the old animatronics remain, relegated to parts and service on camera 11, a storage room where tangled wires and dust layers accumulate on frames deemed too ugly and smelly for public performance. Withered Chica sits among this refuse, her condition shocking compared to the relatively pristine FNAF 1 appearance that chronologically occurs later. Both hands have been completely removed, endoskeleton arm stumps trailing wires that spark occasionally, metal bones extending from shoulder joints with nothing to grip or gesture with. Her beak hangs perpetually agape, jaw mechanism locked in a position that exposes rows of blocky teeth and the gleaming endoskeleton fangs deeper within her throat cavity. Yellow plating has peeled in sections, revealing the metallic framework underneath. Rust spreading where moisture from the restaurant's inadequate climate control has interacted with exposed steel. Her eye sockets have sunken dramatically, lids eroded away entirely, so her magenta eyes seem to bulge from hollowed cavities, staring with intensity undiminished by physical deterioration. The overall effect transforms her from cheerful performer into something ancient and suffering, a creature that has endured years beyond its intended operational lifespan. Phone Guy's Night 2, tape in FNAF 2, mentions that these old animatronics were kept for parts after the original location closed, their components intended to maintain the new toy variants, but even in this diminished state, they shouldn't be walking around. The emphatic nature of that statement suggests management knows exactly how wrong it is that these decommissioned machines activate at night, knows that something beyond faulty servos drives their movements through prize corner hallways and right air vents, leading directly to the security office, where guards crouch beneath desks, Freddy Fazbear mask clutched in sweating hands. Withered Chica's path mirrors her FNAF. One behavior in spirit, if not exact geography, her bulk squeezing through ventilation shafts too narrow for comfortable passage, plating scraping against metal ductwork with sounds that echo through the restaurant, like something massive forcing itself through spaces meant for cables and air circulation. The vent lights provide guards their only warning. Yellow illumination indicating her presence in the right vent. Precious seconds to don the Freddy mask and hope the disguise tricks her facial recognition systems long enough for her to retreat. But if the mask goes on too late, if guards hesitate even a moment, Withered Chica lunges from the vent, opening directly into the office, her handless arms unable to grasp, but her beak and endoskeleton teeth compensating with crushing force, the game over screen cutting to black as her deteriorated face fills the monitor. Ultimate Custom Night gives Withered Chica a voice, raspy and distorted through damaged vocal processors, delivering lines that confirm Susie's presence within the frame. I was the first. I have seen everything. She rasps through vent approach audio cues, the statement establishing her primacy among the missing children incident victims, her witness to William Afton's methods, her understanding of what happened in those back rooms and parts and service areas where innocence ended and spiritual torment began. The mechanical nature of her voice in UCN emphasizes the tragedy, a little girl's consciousness filtered through corroded voice box components, forced to communicate through rasps and mechanical grinding, because the machine she inhabits has deteriorated past the point of clear speech. Her gameplay mechanics in UCN require tracking her via vent monitors, watching for movement indicators that show her progress through ductwork, deploying audio lures mid-path to redirect her away from the center vent, or closing the center vent door to send her back to starting positions. But failure creates a unique problem because Withered Chica's bulk jams the center vent door when she reaches it, preventing closure and blocking other vent-crawling animatronics like Springtrap from using that route while simultaneously allowing Mangle through, creating a scenario where her presence helps against some threats, while catastrophically weakening defenses against others. And while jammed, she has a 1 in 15 chance per second when the monitor raises to break free and deliver a jump scare, forcing guards to balance the benefits of her obstruction against the risk of random failure. A gambling calculation that perfectly captures the desperate mathematics of surviving 50 over 20 mode challenges. Toy Chica debuts on the show stage, captured by camera 10 inches FNAF 2's reopened location, a complete redesign that embraces contemporary 1,980 seconds aesthetics over the classic animatronic look. Her frame slims dramatically compared to Chica's original bulk. White plastic molding shaped into feminine curves that management clearly intended to attract both child and parent attention. Her design walking the uncomfortable line between family entertainment and objectification that characterized many animatronic performers of the era. Pink accents mark her legs, arms, and beak, the colors suggesting bubblegum and cotton candy and other sugary associations meant to enhance her appeal. Her bib no longer reads "Let's eat," but instead proclaims "Let's party," the slogan shift, reflecting the grand reopening's emphasis on celebration over food, though the kitchen still pumps out pizzas at a rate that keeps grease traps overflowing and health inspectors circling. She holds no cupcake tray in her initial stage position, her hands instead shaped for clapping and waving, for the interactive gestures that designers believed would make the toy line feel more alive, more responsive to audience presence. But the most striking change occurs when she leaves the stage, when cameras catch her transition from show stage to party room 4 on camera 11. Because at some point during that journey, her beak detaches completely. Guards checking feeds find Toy Chica approaching through left hall or left vent with black eye sockets where her beak should be, white pupils glowing faintly in those voids, her appearance shifting from cheerful to deeply unsettling, in a way that seems deliberate, as if she knows exactly what effect that missing beak creates in observers watching through security monitors. No explanation exists for why the beak detaches. Engineers designed no mechanism for removal. Toy Chica's programming contains no subroutine for cosmetic changes mid-patrol. Yet it happens consistently, every night, every approach. The beak simply absent once she begins hunting. The effect recalls uncanny valley responses, the psychological phenomenon where almost human appearances trigger revulsion rather than comfort, where the absence of expected features creates wrongness that exceeds any grotesque addition. Guards learn to recognize her by those glowing eye sockets, learn that the Freddy mask must deploy before she reaches striking distance, learn that failure means those empty voids filling their vision as her jump scare animation plays. As circuits fail and the night resets to 12 a.m. with all progress lost, the beak removal becomes a franchise signature, recurring in Security Breach, where shattered Glamrock Chica's beak is sheared away by trash compactor hydraulics, exposing the endoskeleton mouth beneath in direct callback to this FNAF 2 design choice. It's as if Toy Chica established a rule. Chica, without a beak, represents peak threat, represents the moment when performance ends and predation begins. Voice actress Amber Lee Connors brings Toy Chica to life in Ultimate Custom Night and Special Delivery. Her delivery smooth and playful, with an edge that suggests she's enjoying the hunt. "Where's my beak?" lodged in your forehead. "Of course," she chirps during UCN office approaches, the cheerful tone contrasting grotesquely with violent imagery. "You won't get tired of dying, will you? And I wonder if you'll ever get tired of dying in special delivery AR hunts." The repetition emphasizing the eternal nature of these confrontations. Nights that reset infinitely, death becoming routine rather than exceptional. UCN deploys her through left vent crawls, her speed requiring quick mask reflexes, while Special Delivery sends her charging through phone screen augmented reality overlays, players zapping her form with virtual shock devices before she reaches striking distance. But beyond these gameplay appearances, Toy Chica's most bizarre franchise contribution comes through the UCN intermissions titled Toy Chica, the high school years, anime-style cutscenes where she appears as a human teenager narrating increasingly disturbing stories about pursuing and eliminating various boys who wronged her, each episode ending with their demise and her moving to the next target. The cutscenes play as dark comedy, but their inclusion suggests something about Toy Chica's character, a predatory nature that transcends her animatronic existence, that manifests across contexts as methodical pursuit. Fazbear's Fright. The horror attraction opens 30 years after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closes its doors for the final time. Entrepreneurs attempting to capitalize on local urban legends by constructing a walk-through horror experience from salvaged relics of the defunct restaurant chain. The attraction features arcade cabinets flickering under artificial fog, mannequins in security guard uniforms positioned at desks with heads slumped forward as if they died at their posts. Audio recordings of children's laughter mixed with static, everything designed to evoke the uncanny nostalgia of places where joy and tragedy intertwined until the former couldn't exist without invoking the latter. But some artifacts prove more authentic than intended, and Springtrap's discovery in a sealed back room brings genuine malevolence into halls meant only for theatrical scares. Phantom Chica appears in this context as hallucination rather than physical threat, her form charred as if burned in fire, textures rendering her yellow plating like scorched rind, blackened and cracked in patterns that suggest extreme heat exposure. Scott Cawthon joked on Steam forums during FNAF 3's release that she resembles a watermelon with her rind-like appearance, a comment that became franchise lore as fans cataloged every detail of her design, every implication hidden in texture choices and spawn conditions. Camera 07 serves as Phantom Chica's fixed location in Fazbear's Fright, an arcade cabinet in the corner where her image appears under flickering screen static, her face suddenly filling the monitor when guards chance to view that specific feed. Looking at Cam 07 when she manifests triggers her jump scare animation, her charred form lunging toward the screen before the image cuts to white noise. Ventilation error messages, appearing immediately after as office environmental systems fail. She doesn't kill directly like Springtrap does. Phantoms operate under different rules. Psychological warfare rather than physical threat. Their jump scares causing system failures that create openings for the real danger stalking adjacent hallways. Ventilation errors in FNAF 3 prove nearly as deadly as animatronic attacks. Because oxygen levels drop, audio hallucinations increase, and Springtrap receives advantages in his pathing, the failing systems essentially alerting him to guard positions. Players learn to avoid Cam 07 entirely once Phantom Chica appears, the risk of looking outweighing any benefit surveillance might provide, the simple act of observation becoming dangerous when it invites hallucinations that sabotage the tools keeping them alive. The burned appearance connects to deeper lore, the fire that consumes Fazbear's Fright at the end of FNAF 3, the flames that presumably engulf Springtrap and all salvaged relics, creating the charred aesthetic that Phantom animatronics display. But timeline complications emerge because Phantom Chica appears before the fire occurs, before any burning could justify her appearance, suggesting either the phantoms represent something outside linear time, or the fire was always inevitable, always part of Fazbear's Fright's destiny, its specter manifesting in hallucinations before physical flames consumed the attraction's pressboard walls and salvaged arcade prizes. Help Wanted VR recreates Phantom Chica's mechanics faithfully in virtual recreation of FNAF 3 Nights, her charred form appearing on arcade cabinet feeds to sabotage ventilation systems, the VR environment somehow making her more unsettling because she manifests in three-dimensional space rather than flat security monitor images, because players wearing headsets feel surrounded by Fazbear's Fright's claustrophobic corridors in ways 2D gameplay couldn't replicate. Five Nights at Freddy's 4 abandons restaurant settings entirely, placing players in a child's bedroom where animatronics approach through hallway darkness and closet shadows, where flashlights replace security cameras and door holding replaces door closing, where the entire scenario plays out in a domestic space that should represent safety, but instead becomes the ultimate violation of that assumption. Nightmare Chica appears at the right hallway's end, her form barely visible until flashlight beams illuminate her position. And what the light reveals justifies the nightmare designation completely. Her suit has rotted to tatters, yellow plating shredded to expose blackened endoskeleton limbs beneath, claws curved and sharp replacing the simple orange feet of her classic design. Her beak contains rows of teeth that seem too numerous, too sharp, extending beyond what any chicken-themed animatronic requires. Her mouth a weapon rather than a tool for performance. Both eyes glow fierce magenta, pupils dilated and tracking the child protagonist with predatory focus. No heterochromia or visual mismatch, just symmetrical intensity that makes her gaze feel alive in ways animatronic eyes shouldn't. Her bib hangs in shreds. "Let's eat," still partially visible through tears that expose chest plating underneath. The slogan persistence mocking the idea that this creature wants food in any conventional sense. That appetite drives anything other than the hunger to reach the bedroom door, to cross that threshold and end the night in a game-over screen, showing her teeth closing on the player's vision. The child must time flashlight checks perfectly, illuminating Nightmare Chica's position to send her retreating temporarily, but holding the beam too long or checking too frequently drains batteries that don't recharge, leaving the flashlight useless during later hours when animatronic activity peaks. Audio cues provide additional guidance. Heavy breathing, growing audible when she approaches. Footsteps creaking against floorboards. Kitchen sounds emanating from upstairs that indicate her alternate location. When breathing sounds emerge from the right hallway, players must hold the right door closed without looking, trusting sound over sight, maintaining pressure on the door mechanism until the breathing recedes and danger passes. But Nightmare Cupcake introduces additional variables because this prop detaches from Chica's tray for independent closet jump scares. Launching from the dark closet interior when light checks fail or randomly during defenses, rows of spiky teeth filling the screen as defeat registers. The cupcake's autonomy suggests Chica's hunger manifests across multiple vectors, that her threat cannot be contained to single approaches, that even when the hallway remains clear and door holds firm, something sweet and innocent transforms into fanged assault from the one location players cannot door seal. The Halloween edition update in October 2015 reskins Nightmare Chica into Jacko Chica. Orange flames licking across her decayed frame, her eyes replaced with carved jack-o'-lantern voids, spilling fiery light across bedroom darkness. The update released seasonally, developers torching the nightmare aesthetic to evoke bonfires and autumn harvests, and the tradition of carving faces into gourds to ward off evil spirits, though in this case, the jack-o'-lantern herself becomes the evil spirit requiring defense. Her mechanics mirror-base Nightmare Chica exactly. Right hallway approaches demanding flashlight checks and door holds, closet risks persisting through her Jacko Cupcake variant that launches with the same fanged intensity. But Ultimate Custom Night expands Jacko Chica into something more complex, a temperature-based threat that manifests when office heat reaches 90 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, appearing simultaneously in both left and right hallways, her progress advancing based on AI level settings as long as heat persists above threshold. If temperature climbs past 100 degrees, door closures become ineffective against her. The heat-disabling countermeasures until players activate power AC to cool the environment below 90 degrees, enabling doors to repel her again. She rasps warnings through office speakers in sing-songy menace. The fire within me burns eternal, and now you shall as well. her voice distorted through flames, Susie's consciousness warped by heat into something that threatens immolation rather than crushing or stuffing. UCN's 50/20 mode forces temperature management to become critical survival mechanics. Heater and other sources creating thermal escalations that cascade into Chica breaches. Her presence punishing any moment when climate control lapses, when guards prioritize other threats over the rising degrees displayed in corner HUD elements. Sister location descends into underground facilities, where Circus Baby's entertainment and rental operates from modules arranged like industrial compounds, where Funtime animatronics store in compartments between party bookings, where scooping rooms wait for technicians who investigate too deeply into mechanisms they don't understand. Chica is absent from this roster entirely. No Funtime Chica, performing alongside Funtime Freddy and Funtime Foxy. No kitchen diversions or right hallway patrols to recreate familiar patterns in subterranean context. The omission streamlines Sister Location's narrative around the Afton family, around Elizabeth's death, inside Circus Baby's stomach compartment, around Michael Afton's infiltration and eventual scooping that allows Ennard to wear his skin like a suit while escaping to the surface. Without Chica, the game focuses on Bellora's gallery navigation, Funtime Foxy's parts and service repairs, the elevator descents that build isolation without her bulk jamming vent paths or her kitchen sounds, providing audio diversions. Source code on Sister Location's teaser website contained the cryptic string, Chica's Party World, a reference that sparked discussions about a potential location tied to her specifically, a venue where gluttony themes might dominate, just as Circus Baby's facility emphasized child capture and rental entertainment. But nothing materialized in the game itself, the clue remaining unused in final builds, a hint at content cut or storylines abandoned during development. The secret of the Mimic novel eventually provides context for that Party World reference, revealing it as a 1,970 seconds restaurant client of Murray's Costume Manor, a business that commissioned mascot suits, including the Party Time Chica costume that later gets discovered in the Manor's dusty storage. This version features pink and blue roller skates, a white apron-style bib proclaiming Party Time in bold yellow lettering, a pink beak designed for skating performances around arcade floors while disco lights pulse overhead. The suit never reached its destination, Fazbear Entertainment, eventually acquiring it decades later as surplus inventory. The Mimic endoskeleton discovers this costume in the Manor's shadowed warehouse spaces, donning it as disguise to pursue Fazbear technician Arnold through blueprint-filled offices, gliding on roller skates that click against concrete floors, pursuit escalating from skating strolls with Madonna's Like a Prayer echoing through speakers to frantic, clumsy charges when detection occurs. The Mimic's adaptive learning allows seamless integration with the costume's mechanics, its artificial intelligence studying movement patterns and social cues well enough to mimic party performance, while stalking human prey through service corridors. The sequence ends with the Mimic shedding the costume entirely after obtaining schematics it sought, leaving Party Time Chica crumpled among warehouse relics. Another suit that served purposes beyond its original design, another costume that concealed something far more dangerous than birthday performer. Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator presents itself as restaurant tycoon gameplay, before revealing its true purpose as Henry's elaborate trap for remaining animatronics haunted by missing children, incident souls, and William, Afton's corrupted remnant. The game's catalog auction system allows players to purchase animatronics for custom pizzeria stages, dragging them into dining room layouts, where they perform nightly while salvage sessions and legal paperwork compound in the office. Funtime Chica appears in this catalog as a rare find, her listing describing her as a heavy animatronic in very good condition, available for $71,000 purchase price. Her design leans into Funtime aesthetic established by Sister Location, segmented shell plating in vibrant orange and pink tones. her waist and calves shifting smoothly during stage activation dances, her abdominal speakers broadcasting chipper lines like, "Smile, and I'm ready for my close-up," in cute tones that mask her rental facility origins. Unlike her withered or nightmare variants, Funtime Chica presents no nocturnal threat. Her behavior purely passive, her purpose limited to boosting atmosphere ratings and entertainment scores, and bonus revenue through performances that loop under virtual spotlights. The missing pink upper plate exposes left collarbone wiring faintly, a design detail suggesting Funtime engineering repurposed from sister locations' child capture mechanisms, illusion discs and scent dispensers, stripped away for harmless restaurant use, but the underlying frame betraying those darker roots. Funtime Cupcake accompanies her as tray prop, but this iteration snarls with rows of needle-like teeth, yellow eyes glaring in perpetual anger, its expression contrasting sharply with Funtime Chica's cheerful demeanor. The prop appears in Ultimate Custom Night as harmless screen distraction, popping onto monitor feeds to obscure vision until players press a power button to dismiss it, her chirps during these moments, repeating, "Don't get distracted," as if aware her role is pulling attention from more lethal threats prowling office perimeters. Help Wanted 2's Funtime Gang Mode features mechanics where players slide the cupcake across desks to lure Funtime Chica into blocking rival animatronic paths, exploiting her hunger circuits to create strategic obstacles. The cupcake's angry glare persists across these appearances, teeth glinting under lights, as if reminding players that Funtime origins involve more than entertainment, that rental animatronics contain systems for purposes Fazbear Entertainment never publicly acknowledged. Rockstar Chica costs only $2,000 in Pizzeria Simulator's catalog, an affordable option for budget-conscious tycoons designing custom restaurant layouts. Her design diverges sharply from classic aesthetics, rounded beak protruding largely forward, teeth clustered at edges in stylized rows, blue cheeks and knees gleaming against yellow plumage as segments flex during looped performance animations. She clutches maracas in both hands, percussive rattles syncing to beats that boost entertainment ratings to 7 out of 10, though her atmosphere contributes 0, health and safety 0, bonus revenue 0, and liability risk hovers at 1. Her bib proclaims, "Let's rock," in bold lettering, abandoning food themes for musical energy, slogan reflecting the Rockstar rebrand that positions her as concert performer rather than birthday helper. Scott Cawthon's developer notes describe Rockstar Chica as loud, obnoxious, and wisecracking with a thick Mississippi accent, personality traits woven into Ultimate Custom Night animations, where she appears outside left or right office doorways, voice actress delivering taunts like, "That's right, and don't you come back now. You hear?" And, "That'll teach you for trying to trick this old bird." Through hallway camera feeds, players deploy wet floor signs via double clicks on her cameras, exploiting her phobia to halt lunges before breaches occur, the signs grounding her advance. Because apparently, even Rockstar animatronics respect janitorial warnings about slippery surfaces. Her voice escalates during approaches. "I may not like wet floors, but the smell of fresh meat is just too enticing." Regional drawl grounding lines in southern vernacular that makes her threats feel almost folksy, almost humorous, until her beak fills the screen and the night resets. Ultimate Custom Night serves as Scott Cawthon's celebration of franchise history, a 50-character roster spanning every game, every variant, every version of animatronics that stalked players through 7 years of development and community growth. Classic Chica returns to bang pots from the kitchen camera before pressing right door steadily. Audio clangs, signaling her advance. Guards closing right door panel to repel her. The ritual recreating FNAF 1 mechanics faithfully. Toy Chica crawls left side, vents beakless. Sockets glowing on hallway cams, until Freddy mask deploys to fool her scanners. Withered Chica rasps primacy through vent approach audio, her bulk jamming center vent doors if allowed to reach office proximity. Phantom Chica doesn't appear. Her FNAF 3 role as environmental hazard, perhaps too passive for UCN's aggressive roster, though her absence feels notable given how completely other variants manifest. Nightmare Chica can be summoned rarely by DD or her shadow variant XOR in high difficulty modes. Jagged teeth, framing jaws that close gradually from screen edges, tightening until power AC activation accelerates recession before full bite completes. Timing, demanding and unforgiving, because hesitation means teeth crush vision into game over static. Rockstar Chica rattles maracas outside doors. Wet floor signs her weakness. Jacko Chica activates when temperature climbs, manifesting in hallways with disabled closures until AC restores functional defenses. Funtime Chica forces viewed camera feeds to her pop-up. Power button shutdowns, averting jump scares that compound attention, splits across 50 simultaneous threats. The interplay creates scenarios where 6 Chicas assault office defenses simultaneously, where kitchen clangs overlap. Vent, audio cues overlap. Door bangs overlap. Temperature warnings overlap. Screen pop-ups in cacophony that tests not just reflexes, but information processing capacity. The ability to triage threats in real time when every decision costs power or time or attention better spent elsewhere. Players attempting 50/20 mode learn that Chicas collectively represent perhaps 15% of total threat calculation. Their combined pressure, forcing door closures and mask deployments and AC activations that drain resources needed for Foxy and Springtrap and Music Man, and the other 44 characters whose mechanics interweave into patterns of almost mathematical precision. Community members have spent thousands of hours optimizing 50/20 strategies, frame counting animations, calculating power consumption rates, discovering that success requires not just mechanical skill, but route memorization at levels approaching speedrun territory. Chica forms thread through this chaos. Her kitchen sounds instantly recognizable even amid the noise. Her role grounding UCN's excess in franchise origins, reminding players that this overwhelming roster began with one yellow animatronic stepping off a stage, began with right hallway patrols and office door mechanics that defined what Five Nights at Freddy's meant before sequels. Complicated lore and multiplied threats exponentially. Help Wanted brings the franchise into virtual reality. Fazbear Entertainment commissioning a VR game to dismiss previous indie developer games as fiction, as baseless rumors that slandered the company's family-friendly reputation. The game within a game framing creates recursive horror. Players putting on VR headsets to experience virtual recreations of FNAF 1-4. Pizzeria simulator tasks, and original scenarios like parts and service repairs, where hand tracking allows physical interaction with animatronic frames. Chica's parts and service level tasks players with removing 3 pizza slices crusting her yellow frame's exterior, wrenching them from chest seams to toss into refuse bins, while hand unit cheerfully notes customer complaints about her acrid smell from kitchen rummaging. Tools scatter across workbench surfaces under fluorescent lights. The VR environment, allowing players to physically reach forward and grasp slice edges, pulling until they detach with sounds of crusted cheese separating from metal plating. After pizza removal, players press side head buttons to open her beak, revealing cockroach swarms inside. Hand unit directing activation of chemical spray canister to release fumigation gas that scatters pests skittering from oral cavity shadows. The process repeats as needed, while players reattach upper arm components and secure Mr. Cupcake back onto plate assemblies, the prop having hopped off during initial inspection. Its buck teeth chattering as it evades capture across workbench surfaces. Blacklight mode bathes the repair bay in ultraviolet hues, giant bugs pulsing across Chica's confetti bib and orange beak in neon nightmare aesthetics. Hand unit directs protocols through chaos. Remove pizza slices, open beak, activate spray once before declaring it ineffective, and ordering hand removal of roaches amid pursuit. Nightmare cupcake bolts erratically from plate, buck teeth gnashing while skittering across workbenches in panicked flight. Players lunging to recapture before it escapes room boundaries and triggers neon Chica jump scare, her form erupting from darkness in ultraviolet fury. The sequence escalates repair mechanics into frantic pest control, bugs dispersing under rapid hand movements, completion requiring both precision and speed before timers expire or cupcakes flee beyond reach. Success repositions everything steadily. Blacklight fading as hand unit confirms protocols completed, though achievement text notes infestations will restart upon her reactivation. Accumulation recurring through loops that mirror her FNAF 1 kitchen rummaging patterns. Unused audio files hide in Help Wanted's data mines. Cut dialogue for what players presume was a full band introduction sequence. Chica's lines read, "Hey, I'm Chica, the lady of the group. My singing is so sweet. But keep an eye on your pizza, 'cause I'm a bird who likes to eat." The chipper delivery contrasts her rasping moans from gameplay, her voice here bright and welcoming, the kind of introduction that would play during Freddy Fazbear's pizza birthday party shows before animatronics stepped from stages and everything inverted into nightmare. The cut content suggests developers originally planned a more comprehensive recreation of restaurant atmosphere, perhaps a party time showdown mode where animatronics performed complete songs before initiating attacks. But final builds excluded this material, leaving only audio relics for data miners to discover, leaving Chica's performer voice preserved in files that players can access but never experience through intended gameplay context. The lines emphasize duality perfectly. Sweet singing paired with food theft, warning, entertainment coupled with implied threat. The balance that made Chica work as character concept made her transitions from stage to stalker feel earned rather than arbitrary. Five Nights at Freddy's AR. Special Delivery deploys animatronics through augmented reality phone applications, players using device cameras to scan real-world environments where animatronics manifest as translucent figures charging toward screen centers. Classic Chica appears as entry-level threat alongside Freddy and Bonnie. Her straight-line charges, predictable compared to later additions that haywire or cloak or employ complex movement patterns. Players track her via radar pings and visual glitches. Breathing sounds building as approach nears. Taser deployed post-charge to zap her form into static dispersal. Tutorial status makes her accessible to newcomers, pathing echoing right hallway rituals without requiring dodges or advanced counters that veterans employ against harder variants. But skins transform her across seasonal events. Liberty Chica wears green patriotic garb with torch cupcake for 4th of July releases. Scorching Chica ignites magma veins for sizzling summer heat waves. System error Chica glitches red circuits during malfunction events. Jacko Chica flares Halloween orange with pumpkin tray during October rushes. Each skin maintains her core charge mechanics, visual changes refreshing the threat without fundamentally altering how players engage her approach patterns. Freddy in Space 2 reimagines the franchise as retro shoot 'em up. Players unlocking Chica after rescuing her from galactic factory levels in the standalone sequel to FNAF World's minigame predecessor. Her pixelated form lobs arcing explosive cupcakes as primary weapon. Projectiles clearing enemy waves across starry voids and asteroid fields. Upgrades swelling bomb size and range until frosting explosions dominate screen space. Background visuals feature giant bird robots and toy animatronic Terminators. Boss encounters including Robochica's unfinished frame and Buffett Chica belching attacks and oversized variants launching pastry volleys back at players. The Chica Defense Network brain jar ringed by swimming cupcakes serves as final encounter. Neon grids pulsing under difficulty spikes that demand pattern recognition and precise dodging. Developers' homage variants playfully here, role-flipping pursuer into ally, while enemies nod gluttony themes and phantom aesthetics. Completion racks high scores, arcs binding her to offensive plays across arcade runs. Stages propelling through galaxies, where cupcakes carve paths echoing her kitchen origins in destructive celebration. Security Breach Fury's Rage casts Glamrock Chica as selectable fighter in the free beat. M-Up spin-off released April 2021 amid Security Breach delays, pixelated form, comboing punches, and guitar shreds against goon waves in Pizzaplex Atrium Recreations, styled after Streets of Rage classics. Players ground-pound conveyor hazards, movesets, leveraging Rockstar agility to smash crates during multi-level gauntlets, where Shattered Chica charges as mid-boss, her pink-white bulk erupting into aggressor, demanding parries and power-up exploitation. Arenas recreate Pizzaplex zones, playable presence bridging main game pursuits into retro combat, where trash dives inspire grab animations. Developers tie release to pre-ruin hype, feral hunger fueling sprite work that mimics feast sequences from the main game's Green Room Pizza Horde discoveries. Victories advance campaigns, dual roles as fighter and foe sustaining spin-off energy across platform shifts. Glamrock iteration proving versatile enough for both stealth horror and arcade brawling without tonal contradiction. Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex opens in Security Breach as massive entertainment complex, neon-soaked atriums stretching across multiple floors where Glamrock animatronics perform under laser grids for roaring crowds. Glamrock Chica commands stages beside Glamrock Freddy, her design slimmed to white chicken contours with hot pink accents in leotard gear and leg warmers. Star-shaped guitar replacing cupcake trays for shredding solos that freeze fans mid-cheer. Engineers abandoned yellow bulk entirely, this iteration embracing contemporary aesthetics over nostalgic callbacks, though Let's Eat Bib echoes persist in promotional materials, showing her encouraging food court traffic. Glitch Trap Virus corrupts her nighttime programming, Vanny's influence compelling hunts for Lost Boy Gregory through kitchens and atriums and service corridors, where her speed closes gaps faster than classic animatronics ever managed. Gregory navigates her dual personality, daytime performer whose voice sweetens with lines like, "Your family is looking for you, sweetie." Oh, contrasted against nighttime growls that bounce off glossy walls as pursuit intensifies, her bulk slamming through doors and vents with force that suggests something beyond programming drives the chase. Her green room reveals obsession through environmental storytelling. Numerous pizza boxes stacked floor to ceiling, half-eaten crusts scattered across furniture, Bonnie Bowl bowling balls piled in corners under vanity bulbs and arcade cabinets. Fingers once danced across star-shaped guitar strings in blistering solos captured on early night security footage. Skill polished for headliner performances that packed Pizzaplex levels with families willing to pay premium admission for animatronic concert experiences. But management bans her performances after voice box removal. Staff noting disorientation from damage effects that make her stumble during pathfinding routines. The room testifies to unchecked appetite, pizza consumption exceeding any maintenance schedule, boxes accumulating faster than cleaning staff can remove them. Trash compactor bait later exploits this fixation. Monty Mystery Mix Green Ooze Pizza Facsimile, luring her past barriers toward West Arcade Crusher Chambers, where hydraulics designed for organic waste management instead test the limits of segmented animatronic plating. VoiceBox serves dual purposes. Its presence enabling Glamrock Chica's sweet coos that make Gregory drop guard. Who Wants Candy? Beckoning deliberately through speaker systems, glitch trap corruption twisting Rockstar charm into predatory bait. Activation surges post-midnight, her form appearing suddenly behind targets during fast chases, halted only by hiding in lockers or stunning via Fazcam flash or phaser blaster shots. Gregory mashes arcade buttons for distractions, sound diversions buying seconds before pursuit resumes with mechanical determination that outlasts human stamina. Post-compactor crush allows voice box extraction. Gregory following duffel bag instructions to retrieve the component for Glamrock Freddy's chassis upgrade. Installation silencing Chica completely, except for mechanical chirps and servo whines. Her subsequent patrols through sewers and ruins rely purely on presence. Lures eliminated, chase sequences depending on visual detection rather than audio manipulation. The upgrade empowers Freddy's voice mimicry to distract her among other animatronics. Extracted components scrambling her recognition systems, while simultaneously boosting allied capabilities. Monty Mystery Mix. Deployment into West Arcade Kitchen Trash Compactor Chute represents Gregory's calculated exploitation of Glamrock Chica's core programming flaw. The green ooze, pizza facsimile. Secured from Bonnie Bowl ice cream shop storage behind employee counters, emits scents triggering her food-seeking subroutines with intensity that overrides glitch trap hunt directives temporarily. Gregory activates compactor controls after positioning bait, her pink-white frame plunging into chamber space under grinding hydraulics, bulk sealing the trap as massive plates converge. Metallic shrieks echo through Pizzaplex vents. Fazbear installed recyclers meant for organic waste, now warping segmented plating under pressures exceeding design specifications. The compactor resets post-crush. Core systems surviving glitches to eject remnants into adjacent sewer zones. Staff logs noting no emergency responses triggered despite obvious equipment strain. Shattered Glamrock Chica emerges from wreckage fundamentally transformed. Her beak sheared completely away, exposing endoskeleton mouth mechanism and teeth in direct visual callback to Toy Chica's FNAF 2 beak drop. Her head lolls at odd angles, neck actuators twisted to enable full 360-degree spins, powered by damaged servos, no longer constrained by normal rotation limits. Two magenta eyes remain visible within fractured casing, but one is incorrectly positioned, staring off to the right while the other tracks targets properly, the misalignment creating depth perception issues that make her movements unpredictable, lurching rather than fluid. Wires spark across crumpled pink segments, hydraulic fluids leaking to slick floors ahead of her, dragging approach through sludge-filled tunnels leading down to flooded sewers beneath the Pizzaplex. Gregory flees via service drops, her erratic lurches closing distance under flashlight beams that catch exposed endoskeleton gleaming wetly under flickering emergency strips. The design echoes voids that once fooled Freddy masks in earlier games, her exposed maw recalling withered Chica's handless desperation and Nightmare Chica's rotted suit tatters. Compaction forces preserve her drives without preserving her form, glitches enabling survival while eliminating aesthetic coherence, reducing her to mechanical core that pursues relentlessly, because stopping would mean acknowledging damage beyond operational capacity. Mechanical chirps replace speech entirely, shattered form weaving through Pizzaplex atriums and green rooms and underground dumping grounds with shrill warbles, piercing ambient drips from burst pipes and distant machinery hums. Head rotations screech on detections, loose eyes swiveling independently to track Gregory past balloon debris and phaser blast rubble scattered across service corridors. Voice box absence, secured earlier via Feeding Frenzy arcade pass, shifts all communication to these chirps. Remnants stalking without taunts or lures. Presence alone sufficient to communicate threat. Data-mined early audio samples reveal Valley Girl affect planned for pre-corruption Glamrock Chica. Lines delivered with affected cheerfulness. "Oh my gosh, let me take a selfie with you," contrasting the final growls that Glitch Trap corruption introduced. Steel Wool Studios refined her arc thematically. Silence, emphasizing transformation from performer to predator. Chirps, substituting lures in underbelly crawls where words would feel wrong, where only mechanical sounds suit something reduced past language into pure pursuit instinct. Ruin DLC descends into Pizzaplex basement months after Gregory's escape and the complex's partial collapse, thick mold crusting every surface in the flooded lower levels, where backup generators flicker and emergency lighting casts everything in sickly amber. Ruined Glamrock Chica's pink-white remnants have deteriorated catastrophically. All revealed via security mask vision that highlights animatronic positions through walls. Orange growth sprouts from exposed joints, including mouth cavity and chest compartment. Fungal blooms pulsing faintly as spores drift through stagnant air, laced with rot and moisture, from shattered skylights 3 floors above. Cassie navigates wreckage with Faz wrench pings alerting to ruined Chica's hulking form, lurching through vents. Time and moisture, accelerating corrosion beyond even her compactor damage. Decay, binding her to debris in sticky layers that slow but never halt her segmented strides. Right head half shears away in these corridors, jagged edges framing a dangling magenta eye and fractured socket, while the other wobbles uncontrolled, the damage exceeding even shattered state severity. Cassie navigates Chica's bakery ruins and utility debris. Flashlight sweeps, catching those orbs rolling independently through mold gaps, the eyes attempting to fix on her position despite structural failures preventing coordinated vision. Peeling plating exposes servos twitching under strobe effects in service tunnels. Timeline positioning this state, months after security breaches sewer encounters. Headful rotations persist as wild scans during charges. Flashlight stuns to her face, repelling attacks temporarily. Eye clatter heralding arrivals that grind door frames metallically as she forces passage through spaces too narrow for her bulk. Half-skull exposure reveals internal relays sparking faintly, vision flaws turning pursuits more desperate than calculated, her damaged state somehow intensifying threat, because predictability vanishes when sensors malfunction, and targeting systems rely on single, functional optics swiveling through shadows, seeking warm signatures. Beakless maw lunges from garbage piles despite torso breaches leaking hydraulic oils onto floor slicks, trash bags stuffed inside her clawed grip alongside moldy crusts, and Monty Mix remnants from bakery vents where conveyor jams hoard endless feasts. Cassie evades her binges in compactor outflows, Faz wrench pings flaring proximity warnings as ruined Chica devours, refuse that sustains endoskeleton functions despite all logic suggesting such intake serves no mechanical purpose. Hunger overrides structural collapse, circuits prevailing where frameworks fail, the mimic's influence through AR inhibitors, perhaps explaining her persistence, or perhaps she simply continues, because stopping means confronting the impossibility of her operational state. Appetite endures beyond total failure, devouring cycles, securing her presence through fungal-encrusted corridors, where Cassie's mission to save Gregory instead leads deeper into Pizzaplex horrors that refuse burial beneath rubble and floodwater. The secret of the mimic novel positions prototype Chica in Murray's Costume Manor's underground workshop, an unfinished animatronic frame where metallic endoskeleton dominates visible structure. Sparse yellow plating covering only sections, while caution tape wraps exposed joints throughout. Edwin Murray's craftsmanship left upper arms, left leg, and hips completely bare. Raw components, gleaming under workshop bulbs, a 12, marking visible on right leg plating alongside MCM watermark etched into chest assembly. Red bolts protrude near shoulders from incomplete assemblies. The design heightening eerie stillness, because incomplete animatronics shouldn't activate, shouldn't track observers with any intelligence, yet manor exploration sequences suggest otherwise. Arnold navigates around these frames during infiltration, warning scrolls advising avoidance because detection triggers security responses. This Chica exists frozen mid-construction, testing phase for Chica's Party World venue that halted due to delays, stranding the partial build among FNAF 1 prototypes like Freddy, Bonnie, and Foxy in various completion states. Status echoes withered exposures, incompletion and decay, producing similar aesthetics of mechanical vulnerability, of systems visible that should remain hidden, of frames stripped past performance-ready states into industrial honesty. The novel also reveals birthday cake animatronics, fully mobile desserts with legs and roller skates, patrolling manor corridors, alerting mimic to intruders before launching proximity jump scares that escalate warehouse chases. These connect tangentially to Chica through cupcake lineage. Sentient pastries evolving from Mr. Cupcake's teleportation in FNAF 1 through Nightmare Cupcake's closet independence to these mobile birthday props that guard Murray's inventory. The progression suggests Fazbear Entertainment experimented extensively with animated food items, perhaps recognizing that desserts bypassed uncanny valley responses that plagued humanoid animatronics, that children accepted mobile cupcakes more readily than they accepted near-human faces on mechanical frames. Chica's association with food thus extends beyond bib slogans into actual product lines, where edible items gained agency, where Party World concepts involved not just chicken mascots, but entire casts of dessert performers, skating around guests in disco-lit dining theaters. Across novels and games, across Fazbear Frights anthologies, and Tales from the Pizzaplex collections, Chica appears in Fragments, Silver Eyes trilogy, positioning her in basement confrontations where originals tear apart twisted variants. Fourth Closet's amalgamation merging her with Freddy, Bonnie, and Foxy via smelting processes. Coming Home's Susie resolution, providing rare closure through sibling bonds and doll retrievals. These appearances reinforce her role as witness, as Susie's primacy among victims, granting perspective on tragedies that unfolded across decades, granting her spirit authority to taunt through withered rasp that she was first, that she has seen everything William Afton perpetrated in backrooms and parts and service areas where cameras didn't reach and screams couldn't escape past arcade noise. Books humanize where games mechanize. Novels granting inner lives to children whose game representations remain filtered through animatronic behaviors and minigame pixels. Coming Home particularly resonates because it shows Susie caught between worlds, peaceful spirit, seeking lost dog and cherished doll, while simultaneously bound to Chica's patrols at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Her consciousness split between home and restaurant, between family and vengeance, between the life stolen and the afterlife denied. Cupcake variants proliferate across franchise installments. Golden Cupcake, manifesting as rare Easter egg in FNAF 3, with shimmering gold frosting and white dotted eyes potentially hinting at Golden Freddy connections. Shadow Cupcakes flashing across FNAF 3 minigame camera feeds to unlock Chica's Party, where Toy Chica distributes pastries to glitching children in looping futility. 8-bit Cupcake held by high-score Toy Chica in special deliveries arcade mayhem events. Torch Cupcake reskinning green with Liberty Chica. Scorching Cupcake burning eyeless alongside Summer Heat variants. Calavera Cupcake adorning Sugar Skull patterns with Katrina Toy Chica. Moldy Cupcake lodging in Little Red Chica's basket during fairy tale events. Giant Cupcake looming in Ruins Chica's bakery as hostile statue tracking Cassie with glowing eyes positioned to knock her down amid basement navigation. Glamrock Cupcake features in promotional materials absent from Glamrock Chica's actual model. Pink frosting with lightning paint, suggesting design concepts abandoned or reserved for future DLC. Each iteration preserves yellow eyes and teeth emphasis, design consistency, ensuring Mr. Cupcake remains recognizable across wildly divergent art styles and gameplay contexts, from 8-bit sprites to 3D models to AR overlays. The Cupcake's omnipresence suggests deeper meaning, a motif threading every Chica appearance regardless of temporal setting or narrative context. Perhaps it represents innocence, birthday celebrations, and childhood joys corrupted by association with murder and possession. Perhaps it represents hunger, sweet tooth literalized into fanged observer that watches guards throughout nights, that detaches for independent kills when opportunity presents. Perhaps it represents Susie specifically, her birthday party at Fazbear's Pizza interrupted by William Afton's lure, her final moments possibly involving cake and candles before backroom horrors replaced celebration with tragedy. Games never explain explicitly, leaving cupcake symbolism open to interpretation. But its persistence suggests developers consider it essential to Chica's identity, that removing the cupcake would diminish her as character in ways removing her beak or hands or voice doesn't. From Birdie the Early Bird and Helen Henny inspirations through FNAF. One Right hallway patrols. From missing children incident possession through withered deterioration and toy redesigns. From phantom burns and nightmare teeth through sister location absence and pizzeria simulator auctions. From Rockstar maracas and UCN roster inclusions through help wanted repairs and special delivery charges. From Glamrock shreds and trash compactor crushes through ruin, mold incrustations, and secret of the mimic prototypes. Chica endures. Her yellow plating pops against darkness in every venue. Her magenta eyes dilate to track threats across decades of franchise evolution. Her hunger manifests in kitchen clatters and trash dives and pizza accumulations that exceed any nutritional or mechanical requirement. She is gluttony personified through animatronic form. Appetite insatiable, because it stems not from stomach, but from soul. From Susie's unrest channeling through circuits and servos into behaviors that parody consumption while pursuing something far darker than food. She is femininity weaponized in spaces that commodified it. Backup singer and birthday helper and party performer transformed into pursuer, whose speed and intelligence match or exceed male counterparts, despite design philosophy that positioned her as supportive rather than dominant. She is witness to franchise origins, first victim granting perspective that echoes through every taunt and rasp, every appearance contextualizing itself against that primacy. Staged right at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, where it all began, where Susie in yellow approached purple guy between arcade cabinets, where Let's Eat promised pizza and party but delivered stuffed suit and spiritual imprisonment, where show stage lights illuminated three figures that seemed innocent until midnight, when programming fractured and something possessive animated their movements toward office doors and flashlight beams. The lore of Chica is the lore of every child who trusted wrong person. Every family entertainment venue where shadows gathered in corners that spotlights couldn't quite reach. Every animatronic band that performed birthdays by day and hunted guards by night, because business decisions and murderous intent combined into spaces where children played and died and remained bound to the locations of their demise. Her story concludes in flooded basements where mold crusts her remains, where orange fungal blooms pulse with faint bioluminescence, where Cassie's flashlight catches one working eye rolling independently through gaps in shattered skull plating, where mechanical chirps echo through utility corridors in patterns suggesting not randomness but intention, not malfunction but communication, attempted through systems degraded past language. She lurches forward still. Will always lurch forward, because Susie's rest remains incomplete, because Fruity Maze led nowhere but loop, because coming home required doll retrieval. That game timeline never permitted. Because every pizzeria closure spawned new venue, where cycles repeated under different names and updated designs. Prototype Chica waits in Murray's Manor workshop, incomplete frame ready for activation whenever narrative demands another appearance, whenever developers need that yellow plating and magenta stare and Let's Eat persistence to remind players where franchise terror originated. Glamrock Chica shreds guitar solos on stages rebuilt from rubble. Pink lightning paint fresh over scars. Voice box restored or replaced. Green rooms stocked with pizza boxes that will accumulate again because appetite transcends damage, because hunger defines her across every iteration, regardless of whether servos function or plating remains attached or eyes track targets symmetrically. The complete lore of Chica is the lore of persistence, of continuity threading chaos, of yellow figure stepping from show stage in FNAF 1 to establish pattern that 50-plus characters would later follow, of right hallway routes, conditioning guards to rhythms that custom nights would weaponize through multiplication and acceleration, of kitchen sounds echoing through speakers to become franchise signature, as recognizable as Freddy's music box or Foxy's sprint. When discussions emerge about which animatronic best represents Five Nights at Freddy's essence, arguments favor Freddy for protagonist status, or Springtrap for William Afton connections, or Puppet for soul-granting lore significance. But Chica deserves consideration because she balanced everything. Performer and predator, innocent and vengeful, simple and symbolic, tutorial threat and endgame challenge. She taught players door mechanics, introduced possession narrative through Susie's tragedy, evolved across every game without losing core identity, survived roster cuts and underground facility omissions to return repeatedly because stories demanded her presence. Her magenta eyes close slowly in flooded basement darkness as Cassie's flashlight beam passes, as ruined DLC credits roll, as players exit back to menus contemplating what they witnessed in those depths. But closing suggests rest, suggests conclusion, and Chica's story permits neither. Her eyes open again in next appearance, in next game, or book or movie adaptation, in next iteration that will reinterpret Let's Eat for new audiences while preserving the hunger that has defined her since 2014. The lore continues because possession grants something approaching immortality, because spirits bound to animatronics exist outside normal mortality, because Fazbear Entertainment keeps rebuilding, and franchise keeps expanding, and Scott Cawthon plus Steel Wool Studios, plus novel authors keep finding new angles on familiar frameworks. Chica will return. Has already returned in projects announced and speculated. Will step from show stage right position under spotlights that illuminate feathers and bib and cupcake plate. Will begin her patrol toward right hallway door. Will clatter through kitchen investigation. Will emerge from darkness with beak parted and eyes dilated and systems activated for pursuit. Because that is what she does. What Susie's spirit compels through mechanical frames across every venue, every timeline, every night when security feeds flicker on and monitoring begins. And somewhere in the distance, pots bang against counters as if something searches for satisfaction it will never find, as if appetite itself has become the ghost haunting yellow plating, as if hunger transcends flesh to inhabit machine, persisting eternally in the space between programming and possession where Chica lives.